Hey guys, I'm let's try that again. Hey guys, I'm John. Welcome back to my channel. I am here at Bower Ponds in Red Deer with my big, blue, beautiful Alberta flag showing my support for Alberta independence. And in this video, I'm going to walk around and talk to people in Red Deer and see what their opinion is on Alberta independence. And I want to focus, if I can, the conversations towards the one issue that probably broke the camel's back for many people. The gun confiscation, okay? Because listen, if you live in Alberta and you don't support the gun confiscation, you damn well better be willing to crawl over broken glass to sign this petition and then ultimately vote in favor of independence, because this is the only way you're ever gonna get to keep your property. And what amazes me is how so many Canadians say that they support democracy, but then on the one hand, they support this obscure bureaucratic process where the government can just decide that they're going to take away, a cool $1 billion worth of property away from Canadians. And if you're questioning the number of billion, anybody who can do basic arithmetic would probably estimate it more like 5 billion, because there's no way they're going to pay Canadians for all the property that they're stealing. And Canadians are just going along with this, right? And pretending like we live in a democracy. Yeah, so on one hand, obscure bureaucratic process, take away the property of millions of people. And on the other hand, we're told that we can't vote on independence because it's not a approved topic, like as if we need the government to tell us what we can and can't vote on. Do you see the hypocrisy there? And so anyway, this is the one chance that I think many Canadians have, in Alberta, Albertans have. If you live in Canada, you could still come. Hey, do you support Alberta independence?
Sure did. I voted the other day.
Awesome.
I saw you on YouTube, watched your channel.
Hey, can I come over there?
Sure can.
Awesome. Now I'm on the ice. Woohoo! I didn't bring my skates.
Yeah, bring your skate.
Hey, you saw me on YouTube.
Yeah, I sure did.
I can't shake your hand,
That's
but
right.
like fist bump.
No problem.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
And it might put a word in your mouth, but see what your response is. What do you think about the gun confiscation?
Yeah, there's no such thing as illegal guns. If you want guns, you buy them legally anyhow. And if you, the criminals are going to get them, right?
Yeah.
One way or the other. Not going to go through a gun shop and then harm somebody, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's BS, total BS, right? So
Yeah. And so I was just thinking, like, if we're going to confiscate guns with an obscure process, like bureaucratic process, that's not democracy, right?
No, it's not, no.
And
That's the reason why we need to separate, right?
Right.
We need to determine our own destination.
Right.
Alberta's been raked over the coals for years, right?
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
time that we control our own future, right? So
Absolutely.
it may cost us a little more in the long run, or in the short term,
Yeah.
but the long run, we're going to win. I honestly believe that we're going to win. It's
Yeah.
not for me.
Yeah.
It's for my grandkids and my
Yeah.
kids, right? So
Yeah.
and I get emotional when I say that because it means a lot to me, right? So
Oh man, thank
yeah.
you so much
But,
for your
yeah.
support.
No, I signed.
Did you?
Yeah, just the other day.
Did you bring your friends and family with you?
No, I live here by myself, so
Okay.
my son's away.
Okay.
So, but my brother signed the other day too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And you're skating, just get
enjoying the
exercise.
afternoon, yeah.
Yeah.
My cousin is out, and we're just enjoying some
Yeah.
this beautiful creation that we have, right? So.
I know, it's so beautiful.
No, I saw you on YouTube. It's awesome. Yeah.
Okay, I just started this channel like, 10 days ago, and it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so many people want to talk about this.
Yeah.
So you absolutely support it. I was asking about the guns because I think this is the issue that like broke the back for so many people. Like this is it. Like there's so many leading up to it. Probably 25 reasons.
I don't know
but-
if that's the issue that broke the back. I think
No?
it's just the lack of respect for Alberta taxpayers, right?
Okay.
And the democracy in a whole. Like Canada doesn't
Okay.
work together as a country.
Right.
Provinces are individual. Like
Yeah.
we should be individual states,
Yeah.
right? Almost to the point, right?
Well, that's
We're not a country that works as one unit,
no,
right?
we have different priorities.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's always been the East against the West, right?
Yeah.
And it's time that we
Yeah.
like I said, it's not for me. It's for my kids and my grandkids, right? So
Okay, now there's a common argument against what you're saying here is like there's going to be an economic shock and maybe we'll lose some investments and the Canadian dollar go down. Like, what do you say to that?
it's going to happen. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but it's not going to happen overnight anyhow, right? It's a starting point.
Yeah.
It's going to be a 5-year process,
Yeah,
right?
I
or
think.
maybe more, right? But
I'm hoping for less.
It's the snowball, right?
Yeah.
The snowball's got to start someplace, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Hey, that's awesome. Do you want to say anything else for the camera?
no, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm just happy to see you. That's awesome. I told my cousin, hey, I know that guy. I saw him on YouTube. I'm gonna go see
Well,
him.
does your cousin want to come over and talk to you?
No, probably not. No.
Okay.
He's not a voter type of guy, right?
Well,
So,
okay.
but you never know. He might ask.
Right.
I don't know where
Well,
to get
if he sees me, I'm gonna probably walk towards the river and then do a little circle around here. So I'll be here for a good half an hour, 45 minutes probably.
Yeah, okay.
So hey, thank you so much.
No, I recognize the flag right away. So it's awesome.
Well, we all
Thanks
need to
for
do
your-
something.
Thanks for the thing that you do, right?
Hey,
We need people like you to stand up, right?
I'm just hoping that
A
you know,
voice.
yeah,
A voice.
yeah.
And make that voice louder and louder and louder, right? So,
Well, I'm giving you a voice because, like the last video, I don't know, I got 20,000 views in like 2
What?
days. Yeah.
wow, good
So
for you. That's
like,
awesome.
there's a chance. I think 20,000 people might see you too.
Don't put me on too long, though.
Hey, God bless you.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate
All right.
that comment, too.
Take
That's
care.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah, bless you, too. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, I don't want to slip on the ice here, guys. Awesome. Well, that was okay. So maybe I take it back that the one issue that broke the camel's back. But I think I'm onto something with that. You know, one thing I just want to say about my YouTube channel is it's really not about me, but it is monetized now. So if you want to support what I'm doing, you know, I would appreciate a membership. Because I do put some gas money into driving around and doing this. And so it would be greatly appreciated if you got a membership, and if you like and comment and subscribe, you know, that helps me grow this channel and reach more people, and greatly appreciate it. So okay, so what I was talking about earlier about the gun issue, I really do think that's the big issue that we're afraid to talk about, because look, here's what's going to happen, and I think many of us know this. At the end of this year, there's going to be probably 5 to 10 million Canadians, at least, probably 15 million Canadians, who own guns that are now going to be prohibited. And the vast majority of them are not going to be announcing that to the government. They're not going to be turning them in. And so what does this mean? Like, honestly, I ask other Canadians this. Like, what's the plan here? You know, you turn millions of Canadians into criminals, and there's going to be consequences of this. So, like, my first thought of a consequence that comes to mind, have you thought about this? If you're not going to pay people for their property, then you're actually creating a market for criminals. People are going to sell them. Now, I'm not saying you should do that. That'd be a really bad thing to do. But a certain percentage of people are going to sell them. So there's probably going to be more guns legitimately on the street because of this policy. And another consequence, I think, is, well, the police are going to get less training. You're like, wait, what? Yeah, a lot of the people who own, especially AR-15s, they're police officers and military. And I know this firsthand. Okay? And they never come on a video like this and talk about it. But they don't get enough funding through their work to train. And because they are committed to their job and they want to do a good job protecting the public and their own safety, they go home and they train. And so now they're not going to be allowed to, they're going to have to turn in all of theirs. You know, like, okay, so we're going to have less opportunities to train. People want to spend their own money on their own time to do it. That's going to be forbidden. Another thing is, like, there's going to be people who are going to get, we're probably going to get killed over this. And, you know, I'm not saying that you shouldn't follow the law, By any means, guys, I'm not advocating for anything like that. We all just gotta bend over and take it from the government, right? Vote for independence. This is your only hope. But there's gonna be a lot of people who aren't gonna do that. And they're gonna make an example out of a bunch of them. I'm just really worried about that. And you know what that means. If you wanna hear more about this, go check out Runkle of the Bailey. He talks about what SWAT teams do when they confiscate guns from somebody. Basically 2 a.m, they show up with, a whole team of people body armored up. That's a really dangerous situation. And it's like, that's the curse that so many Canadians put on Albertans. Let's see if anybody's down this way, because nobody's down this way. I want to go back to the park. So I don't know, leave your comments. Like, what do you think? Because in my mind, if you are an Albertan and you don't support Alberta independence, but you're against the gun confiscation, it just makes no sense to me. Like, how could you even justify that in your mind? It's an undemocratic process. It would have been one thing if they had said, okay, you know what, we're gonna vote to take away your guns. And then they had a national referendum, and then it was like 51% said, okay, we're gonna ban all the guns. But then they had said, we're actually gonna pay people for the property that we take. That would have been one thing. But that's not what's happening. So hey, do you support the gun confiscation in Canada?
No, I don't.
No? Do you support Alberta independence?
Absolutely not.
How can you not support independence when you're against the gun confiscation? I'm curious.
It's responsible people that sign up for proper gun ownership. Independence is ridiculous.
But like, they're taking away our guns, and this is the only way to keep them. Okay, I mean, I think that I gotta call that lady out. Like, it's incoherent if you say you're against the gun confiscation, but you don't support independence. Like, this is the only way. This is the only way you'll ever get it. Basically, we gotta go along with it. And here's another thing, guys. If you think that it's gonna stop here, you're just wishful thinking. Okay, they've already shown the pattern. They started with a couple of guns, and then they pushed more and more and more. And they said they're gonna pay, and then they didn't. In 5 years, it's gonna be, you can only have a single shot rifle, and you gotta have like a hunting license, active hunting license, in order to have it. Otherwise, you gotta turn it back in. Like, they're gonna go that strict. And so, if that's the Canada that you wanna live in, that you wanna be loyal to, fine. And here's the argument I think that guy was making, is Canada's too big to be effectively governed. We got people with different priorities, in different parts, and so there's no way to please enough of us that we can effectively be governed. Like, people in Quebec, sure, they don't like the guns, okay, vote and then get rid of all of them, but you can't force that on everybody else. Hey, do you guys support the gun confiscation?
We're not supporting separatists.
Do you support the gun confiscation? Because if you support the gun confiscation, then it makes sense to not support independence.
Independence, we're not traitors. He's a Canadian military veteran, and you're fucking just...
But do you support the gun confiscation? So, there's my question actually for people who are in the military, because apparently he's a soldier or a vet, and hats off to you guys. But I do want to know your opinion on this as well. Was I right when I said the thing about how you probably are likely to own a gun that's now on the prohibited list, and that you probably use it for your own personal training so that you can be better at your job? Because I know a handful of soldiers. I go hunting with them all the time, and the stories that I hear is that they're still using outdated rifles and they don't give them enough training. Basically, you sign up, you get to shoot a couple of mags, and then now you're considered trained. And then a lot of soldiers supplement that with their own personal time, right? With their own personal ammunition that they buy. So, and like, what's wrong with that? You know? Now, I'm not saying that that would be the only class that I would accept. I think if we're going to allow soldiers to have these guns privately, then we should allow everybody in society to have it. I mean, here's where I think the best opportunity lies. And I'm probably going to make people on both sides mad when I say this. If we could make a constitution that enshrined gun rights, you know, cannot be infringed, right? I still kind of lean towards having some sort of regulation. You know, like I don't want crazy people to own them. And so then, but then the argument is like, well, if you have a licensing process, and then if you have, you know, training that's required and vetting process, then now the government's involved, and it's always like one slippery slope away from taking them away. So I kind of get both sides there, but I think there's a happy middle ground here, guys. So leave a comment if you think that we could have a happy balance, you know, something like it's enshrined that we all have the right. How do you phrase that, right? Because as soon as you put a but, then it's not a right, it's a privilege. It's like, you have the right to bear arms, but the government can take them away if you're crazy. And then who decides if you're crazy, you know? So, I don't know, I struggle with this, but I'm excited by the opportunity because we can write a constitution. You know, there's talk about having a constitutional conference leading up to the vote, or I guess right after the vote. And, you know, all Albertans would be able to participate in that. And what an exciting thing. Like, you don't have to even agree. Maybe it's the majority of Albertans are against it, and then I eat my words. I put the foot in the mouth, right? So leave a comment below what you think a good wording would be for that question. Hey, do you guys support Alberta independence? No, can I ask why? You think it's stupid? Why? Why is it stupid?
Get fucked over on our CPC.
The pension? You think we're going to lose our pensions? Well, guys, I kind of had a viral moment in my previous video when I talked about pensions. Your pension is a Ponzi scheme. I hate to break it to you. Okay, the way it works is they only collect enough money to pay out the current people who are receiving. And all the money that gets put in there is basically a slush fund for billion-dollar hedge funds to go and invest in the stock market. And you know, that's okay, that's a good thing, right? You can grow your pension fund over time, right? Well, the alternative is you could also invest your own money and take your own risks and grow things on your own. But those big hedge funds, they're taking risks with your money, you know? And so the average pension that I've heard about, the average stat, is $850 a month. What's that gonna do for you? You know? Like, let's say we adjust it for inflation, and by the time I reach retirement, there's, you know, inflation adjusted, a loaf of bread costs $17, and then adjust my pension accordingly. How can you live off of that? It's like, why are we so attached to this? You know, I think the previous generation had good intentions with it, but we were lied to, that it's not going to actually give what we think it's going to give. So if you're a senior and you're living off your pension, leave a comment. Tell me how that's going for you. So, oh, sorry. Do you guys support Alberta independence?
Hell no.
Hell no. Can I ask you why?
Because that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
Okay.
Start with the treaties.
Well, I'd like to
Yeah.
talk to both of you, just a polite conversation if you're willing.
Sure.
Because I obviously support it, but I want to know why. Like, tell me why I'm wrong. I genuinely want to know.
Okay, so first things first.
And this is video, just so
That's
you know.
fair.
Okay.
Do you think the United States has any incentive to treat Alberta with any sort of advantage?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. Why are we talking about the United States?
Well, because that's the number one reason people want to become the 51st state or be separate, better relationship with the states.
Well, I agree with the last part about a better relationship. I don't support joining the states, and I think there's like a small group in this movement who do,
But
but
that doesn't matter if we join the states.
okay.
Is the United States going to provide us any further advantage than they do right now?
I think we would be able to do a lot more like free trade with them. Like, for example, in Quebec, the way our dairy products are kind of all monopolized, we could like have a pure free trade agreement with the states, just trade openly.
What incentive do they have to do that, to agree to that?
I mean,
What incentive?
I think we could both get rich.
How would they get richer? They have their own oil supply that they want to incentivize
Right.
developing.
Right.
They're currently trying to make it so they have full independence and full energy independence
Okay.
for the rest of the world.
Okay.
So we have energy. What else does Alberta have to provide them?
Well, if we were independent, we would have the lowest taxes in the developed world, and we'd attract all the businesses from around the world.
Why do you think that's true?
Because just doing the basic math, we would. I'd like to talk to you too if you're willing. Sorry, it's kind of hard to talk when people walk by and call me a treasonous person. But lower taxes, so we wouldn't have to pay federal taxes for federal things.
taxes without saying, okay, how would you go about having lower taxes?
Right.
Because there are things the federal government provides currently that we
Right.
would have to provide.
Right.
So that means our tax dollars in the province would
Yeah.
obviously have to go up.
Hey ChatGPT, I want you to use official government sources as well as the document called The Value of Freedom from AlbertaProsperityProject.com to answer this question. What are some things that the federal government provides Alberta that Alberta would have to provide itself if it became independent? And how much do those things cost? And considering that Alberta would presumably no longer have to pay federal taxes to pay those things, would our net taxes go up or down to provide the same level of service?
In the event of Alberta's independence, the federal services it currently receives would indeed need to be replaced. According to the Value of Freedom document, these include national defence, costing 3 to 5 billion annually, international relations of 0.5 to 1 billion, health programmes 8 to 10 billion, employment insurance 2 to 3 billion, CPP 3 to 6 billion, border and customs of 0.3 to 0.5 billion, policing around 0.75 billion, indigenous services 4.2 to 5 billion, and other federal services like courts and regulatory bodies about 1 billion. This runs about 20 to 25 billion annually. In total, replacing federal services is estimated at 22.7 to 31.6 billion annually. But here's where the case for prosperity shines. Alberta currently sends 68 to 75 billion in federal taxes, but only receives 22 to 26 billion in transfers back. Independence means retaining that full 68 to 75 billion. Even after covering the costs of federal services, Alberta would still have a net surplus, estimated at 26.3 to 44.3 billion. Even with setup costs, meaning this surplus allows significant tax reductions. This gives Alberta to reduce tax burdens on citizens. The analysis suggests Alberta could eliminate federal GST and potentially even provincial personal and corporate income taxes, depending on how that surplus is used. In other words, the projected outcome is not an increase in taxes, but a pathway to lower taxes with the same or enhanced services.
Well, I mean, we wouldn't be funding so many pet projects and wasteful spending. I think if a federal government actually cut spending and stopped wasting money, we could probably cut our taxes 10%.
Why do they waste money? Give me an example.
Well, okay, so a lot of overseas stuff. I hear about
I
funding.
understand that's something the countries end up having to do. They have to
Yeah.
help out
Yeah.
and make nice with other countries so they can facilitate things like trade agreements,
Yeah.
developing properly in other countries so that
Yeah.
we don't have a World War III or at this point 3.5.
I'm just going to throw in the Ukraine war there because I don't think we should be funding it anymore. So that's a couple $1 billion every day that we're spending over there.
Are we giving that money away or is it loans?
Hey ChatGPT, I want you to use official government sources to answer this question. How much money has Canada given to Ukraine in the form of grants and or loans, and what is the mix?
According to official Canadian government sources, Canada has provided Ukraine with over $12 billion in direct financial support, which would be grants, and about $11.55 billion in loans through the International Monetary Fund. Additionally, 1.94 billion was provided via multilateral banks, and 500 million came as direct bilateral loans. In total, Canada's support is a mix of both grants and loans, with loans making up a significant portion.
Okay, realistically, how likely do you think it is that Ukraine's going to pay Canada back eventually?
It's not really possible to predict that with certainty. A lot depends on how Ukraine's economy recovers after the war and the terms of each loan. In situations like this, repayment may be restructured, forgiven, or extended over many years. Canada's support isn't just about financial return, it's also strategic and political. So the likelihood of full repayment will be tied to long-term stability.
Okay, I stand corrected mostly on this issue.
I don't have an answer to that. You tell me.
You just made a statement that you don't want something to happen, but you don't know what actually is and isn't going on. So
Well,
why are
educate
you
me.
making statements about that if you don't know?
Neither of us actually knew what we were talking about on this point. Canada gives both grants and loans to Ukraine, and it's about equal. I'll leave a link in the description for official sources.
I'm out here trying to learn, actually. So I'll admit that I don't know stuff.
So why can't you go look it up? It's about a 30-second Google.
Well, I could right now, but I got both my hands full.
Yeah, but
Could
why
you
did make that
do it?
statement Before you already said
I'll
you
look
don't think
I'll look
we're
it up before I
supporting-
publish this.
Okay.
And then
But
so
you already had that opinion without actually knowing
okay, fair
what
enough.
the facts were.
Fair enough. I had an opinion before I knew what the facts were. Is there anything that you have that you think is an opinion before you know what the facts are?
I like to support people who have, a right to live.
Okay.
Russia invaded Ukraine
Yeah.
for no good reason. It
Yeah.
was supposed to be a 3-day military operation that has turned into such a quagmire.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of people have died
Yeah.
for zero reason.
Yeah, I agree.
Am I
It's
willing
terrible.
to support people
terrible.
who don't want to die? Yes,
terrible.
yes, I am.
That's terrible. Yeah.
I am willing to support people.
At first I was all for it. It's like at this point now though, I think the only way is to just have a negotiated deal and to end it. And like, okay, it's a risky game that we're playing by supporting the enemy of Russia. But I mean, okay, look, that's not a hill I want to die on. I'll just admit this, that it's not the reason why I support independence.
Okay, why do you support independence?
I think Canada is too big to be effectively governed. We have too many regions with different priorities and different values and different cultures and different needs and desires.
Similar to the problems that are in the European Union.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, Ukraine was part of the USSR in like 1985 or something, and they voted to leave and they left. And how is that like different conceptually than Alberta being part of a big giant country and then voting to leave?
Well, let's stick with the European Union because that's a much more recent example.
Okay.
It didn't involve a dictator wanting to kill a whole bunch of people,
Okay.
which Russia did at the time.
Yeah.
European
I don't
Union.
support Russia either. Honestly, this is a hill I don't want to die on. I'm
Exactly.
sorry,
So I
it's
want to
not a
use
good
the
example.
European Union as a good example. It's much more culturally diverse, kind of like Canada,
Okay.
size-wise, almost like Canada.
Yeah.
But what happened when you had the UK,
Yeah.
one of the former largest empires in the world?
Yeah.
They went to separate from the European Union.
Okay.
Brexit. They
Yeah.
thought that was a great idea. There was people doing the exact same arguments that Alberta independence is doing,
Yeah.
and it turned into an absolute disaster for them.
How is it a disaster? Can you just give me a couple
They
examples?
now have way more trade barriers with the European Union, so they do not have free trade with everybody else around them.
Okay.
Even though they're an island nation with port,
Yeah.
deep water access, unlike Alberta,
Yeah.
they're still having to renegotiate all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
They do not have enough people coming in to do some of their jobs. They can't get people to live there anymore because they used to have free travel between the European Union.
Seems like there's millions of migrants showing up in the UK every day. Like they got lots of people coming there.
But they can't find enough people to do the jobs they have. Everybody's all against immigration, but they wouldn't come here if there
Yeah.
weren't jobs.
I mean, I don't know. Is the UK actually better off with Brexit or are they against it? Because
objectively have not been better off since
Yeah.
Brexit. Objectively.
okay, objectively is a strong word. But like,
other than not having Google here to show you,
Yeah.
I have looked up the numbers.
Yeah.
Financially, they are absolutely better off.
what would some numbers be? Because I'm going to go home and look them up and put them on the screen right now. So what would some numbers be that I should look at?
of the United Kingdom over the last 10 years?
So you're predicting it went down or up?
Down.
It went down?
It
Okay.
went down. The GDP of the UK went down
Okay.
significantly.
Okay.
I want to be honest about something. Until recently, I didn't realize how much the UK has underperformed economically since Brexit. When I actually look at the data, GDP growth, trade, investment, it's clear that on balance, Brexit has come with real economic costs. I was wrong to dismiss that too quickly. But here's the important part. That doesn't mean independence itself is the problem. It means execution matters. Brexit teaches us something very clear. Lessons Alberta must absolutely avoid. Poor planning, years of uncertainty, political sabotage from within, no clear transition strategy. Those mistakes created chaos, scared off investment, and delayed the benefits of sovereignty. And this is why comparing Brexit directly to Alberta independence is actually a weak argument. The situations are fundamentally different. Alberta isn't leaving a trade bloc it depends on for services. Alberta isn't a marginal net contributor. Alberta sends tens of billions of dollars more to Ottawa every single year than it gets back. Alberta independence isn't just about hoping things will magically get better. It's about reclaiming taxes, pensions, energy policy, and decision making, and then using that freedom competently. Brexit shows that independence can be mismanaged. It does not show that independence doesn't work. If anything, it strengthens the case for Alberta doing this carefully, deliberately, and intelligently. Learning from others' mistakes instead of pretending they don't exist. Admitting where you're wrong isn't weakness. Ignoring reality is. And the reality is, Alberta has a far stronger economic case if we're serious about doing this right.
So GDP is a factor of population as well. So if the population is increasing,
Per capita.
yeah, so it's like
doesn't matter.
gross domestic product per capita. So if the population increases because they bring in a couple million immigrants every year who don't produce anything, then GDP would go down.
Yeah, but the immigration went down after Brexit. So they were bringing
The immigration is like, that's all I hear about when I hear the news coming out of the UK.
It's still a problem, but it went down because they didn't have as many people
Okay.
from the European Union coming to work.
It's like, that's another stat that my viewers are going to see on the screen right now.
Okay, that's fine. So
I mean, I'm
go-
not trying to get you a gotcha moment, but
That's fine. You
like,
won't be.
you accuse me of not having information at hand and then having opinions.
I don't have the exact numbers at hand. I've looked up this information.
I gotta add one more disclaimer here. All these infographics are just what ChatGPT told me. This video is just about two guys arguing on the side of the road. If you're serious about getting good data and you're looking to me for that, then you're doing it wrong. But in this case, the guy I'm arguing with is wrong. Immigration didn't go down after Brexit. It went up.
Yeah.
Before.
Okay.
I just don't have it memorized.
Okay.
But now look back to Alberta.
Okay.
The best argument I've heard that we would have a better negotiating position with British Columbia and the rest of Canada is that we would be able to say, we're going to block the borders by having inspections of all your trucks coming through. We're going to hold everything up.
Yeah. There's a couple of loudmouth people who say that, and
What,
you know,
what other advantage are we going to have against British Columbia to get a pipeline, more pipelines through?
do we need another advantage? I mean, that's a pretty big advantage.
Well, you can have a huge disadvantage. You could have an international border.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they wouldn't be able to ship stuff across our province if they didn't let us ship across theirs.
They could go through the states.
Yeah, and we could go through the states too.
Well, only if the states lets us.
You know what I honestly think though? I think at the end of the vote, if it goes either way, I think cool heads will prevail. I believe firmly that, you know, you and I are both reasonable people. And if it goes your way, I think we'll both get along. And if it goes my way, I think we'll both get along. Like just out of necessity. I don't think it's going to turn into like bitterness.
I want to know what advantage we would have to separate.
Right.
What advantage is there? Because as far as I can tell, every single advantage that we have is because we're a full country.
Right.
We have 3 tidewater accesses in Canada.
Yeah.
Alberta has 0.
Yeah. Well, we're landlocked either way.
We have 40 million people to negotiate trade treaties with everybody else.
Yeah.
Alberta, what do we have? 5.5 million?
Yeah. So lots of countries have GDPs comparable to Canada with
of them are
5 to 10. I mean, comes to mind is Switzerland. I'm going to look up their GDP right now and compare it to Canada.
They're part of the European Union.
Well, so I mean, I think cooler heads will prevail. And if it goes the way of independence, I think we're all just going to be like, okay, let's just keep trading because we don't want to like.
Literally trying to put ourselves in a disadvantageous position at first and hoping that we will be able to negotiate with our neighbors again to get things that we already currently have.
I don't think we're all going to turn into like hateful jerks after this. I think we're going to just keep trading.
Otherwise. It doesn't matter hateful or otherwise. We're still going to have to sit down and renegotiate everything, and we're not going to be in a position of power to do any of it.
I mean, you can assert that. I think it's the opposite. I think we're going to have a lot of power.
What do we have to push our position over anybody else if we were independent?
Well, we can make our own laws and we can control our own taxes and our own spending, potentially our own currency, our banking system. We can have policies about energy development, about agriculture. Like all of our industries can have policies that are favorable to trade. We could set it up so that like foreign companies can come here and invest. We could probably use our natural gas resources to build AI data centers and be like a leader in that. Like I don't know how many more advantages do we need?
Well, how are those advantages that we couldn't get right now?
I know that's what's frustrating. I agree with you because if the federal government like actually saw what the potential is, we would be using all of our advantage. Like Canada's a big country and we should be using all our resources, but we're not, and that's what's frustrating us.
We have this gigantic elephant to this south that is causing us to have
giant
a lot
elephant.
of problems right now.
Well, it's not like we're never going to get away from that, and it's been the same story, you know.
You're still going to have that problem as Alberta on your own, except now you don't have a bunch of people backing you up.
Yeah. You know, I don't see Americans as a problem. I see them as like friends. We've done good business. We've had good relations. Like they're the closest ally in the world to us, even closer than the UK.
Nothing but show how very tenuous that relationship can actually be. All it takes is one person to say, oh, I don't like your trade agreement that you've made with China. I'm going to tax you at 100% now.
Do you think that we should be cozying up to China? I mean, it's a totalitarian dictatorship.
I'm very actually ambivalent on that too.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much for admitting that. I'm not trying to give you a gotcha moment here.
China is a horrible problem. However, I will look at what they've done overall.
Yeah.
Look at their environmental policies.
Okay.
They have gone from having some of the worst smog in some of their cities to finally realizing, hey, that's a really terrible thing. And they've
Okay.
started to clean up the air in their cities immensely.
I'm going to check that. I
They're
don't know.
shutting down coal power plants faster than anywhere else in the world.
I'll check that
Creating more nuclear power, clean energy.
too. Okay. These are all numbers I can look up.
Yep,
Like the
that's-
viewers will see this.
that's fine.
So,
And
okay.
I know
and
I'm
I'll,
right on
I'll
that.
admit either way. Yeah.
They have some incredible problems.
Yeah. Like human rights
Human
violations.
rights. They have a lot of construction projects that are incredibly dangerous, falling apart. They've lost, what, 2
Yeah.
bridges in the last couple of months? I can't remember.
Yeah.
And so they have their own problems. And I think they've started to fix some of them.
Right.
The biggest thing, obviously, is their human rights.
What do you think the risks are if we cozy up to China and keep pissing off the Americans?
Well, it's kind of one of those things we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. We weren't cozying
Really?
up to China before the United States started threatening us with 25% tariffs. So if they
To
start
be fair,
tariffing us,
I remember he said that we had a fentanyl problem and that the drugs were coming into the
which
States.
was
And
complete bullshit.
that you think that's a lie? Because I can look up those numbers
Their
too.
own statistics will
Yeah.
show it's a lie. I think
Right.
the amount of fentanyl coming into the States from Canada compared to everywhere else,
Right.
you can look this up. The last
Yeah.
one is somewhere in the neighborhood of 0.3 to 1%.
So I think on this one, it's like we don't actually know. We have to kind of admit we don't know because obviously how many drug cartels are publishing their production quotas, right?
It doesn't matter because if they're catching them at the Canadian border
Right.
and they're catching them at the other borders,
Right.
that's what they're comparing the numbers to.
Well, but our border is really big and it's easy to smuggle things across. Like, I think it's reasonable to say,
Try that and see what you find out because you think it's that easy to cross, but they have it monitored very well.
right. Well, and so, I mean, I think there's a problem and I would say it's bigger than we'd want to admit, but we can kind of just leave it there if you,
But when their own numbers, the United States numbers,
Okay.
suggest that it's not anywhere close to being as big of a problem as literally anywhere else.
okay.
They were complete bullshit numbers for their reasonings for blocking us and tariffing us.
So you disagree with all the fentanyl stuff, all the illegal border crossing stuff?
100%. That was complete
Okay. I'll grant it to you that if you're right, then okay, fine. So then the Americans were mean to us and they tariffed us just to be bullies.
No, they were doing it to make money.
Okay, so the motivation is just be greedy.
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much. Pretty much.
Okay.
Every
so-
time Trump has said something crazy, ridiculous,
Right.
have you noticed what the stock market does?
Yeah.
He goes, crashes, and then
Yeah.
he backs off on it, and the numbers go way back up.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and defend Trump or attack him either way. I just think that he's got 3 years left, and you know, the in 4 years is going to be a different person sitting there, and you know,
He's already
if we piss
said
off
that
the agreement, the
he's
Americans,
already said that they may or may not have a next election. He was on video,
Oh. Yeah.
making claim that,
I
hey,
know.
Christians, you would not
I
have to
know.
worry about the next election. We'll have that solved.
But hey, we're here in Canada, in Alberta. Hopefully, it'll be an independent country soon. Can we talk about Alberta's issues? So, it's because so many people turn this conversation to the Americans.
Okay, that's fine.
And I'm like,
what
all right.
issues do we have right now?
Well, for me, I was thinking about the gun issue. That was what I was kind of focusing this video on. And I'm like, do you support the gun confiscation? Yes or no?
Absolutely not.
You don't support it.
Not at all.
So then, how else could we go about, keeping our guns and our property if we don't get independence? What's the other way to do that?
We can still work through with elections and put pressure on them. I still think that was a ridiculous nonsense. Right. They weren't elected to do that.
Because, they weren't elected. It wasn't a democratic process. It was some obscure bureaucratic thing. And it's like easily $1 billion. It's probably a couple $1 billion worth of guns. They're not going to pay. And like a lot of Albertans are really frustrated by that. So
it's not just Albertans frustrated on that.
You're right. It's a lot of Canadians. So then this is because if in October you have to turn them in or you're a criminal. And, if we have an election or a referendum before October, I think a lot of Albertans would look at that and say, I'm going to wait a few more days to see how that election goes. And if it's like 50% plus one, then I think they would say, I'm not turning my guns in. What do you say to that?
That's a hard one because, like I said, I don't support it. But
right.
It's, well, first of all, even if they voted to separate, it would be years before all that was sorted out regardless.
But it would be like day one, people would just say, we're never turning them in, and Alberta...
Most people are going to say that anyway. I bet you 95% of the people don't even know that they have a gun that's illegal.
I bet you there's a lot. I don't know if it's 95, but I mean, they emailed everybody who has a firearms license and told them to check the list. So ignorance is no excuse of the law.
Checking that list, I didn't even know what was on that list, especially when it says end variance.
Well, let's not admit to nothing here right now. But
I don't have a gun.
yeah, I don't know. I don't have one either. But I just want to. That's interesting because I'm like, okay, this is a big issue, and here's a way to solve it. Independence solves it.
That is a terrible way to solve that problem.
Well, like it wasn't a democratic thing. You're saying we could have a democratic process to get our guns back in 5 or 10 years, maybe, but we could just, go through this bureaucratic process and not just go along with it. Like,
I don't think that is sufficient to say, I don't want to be part of Canada. I don't want to have the support of 40 million people backing us up.
Okay.
Like, it just, to me, you have to go, okay, now everything to do with having the military is now our problem. We have to do, and not that we would be able to do much anyway. There's no way 5.5 million people would be able to have a big enough military to mean anything.
Okay. Hey, question. Have I treated you fairly during this conversation? Like, have I been respectful? Like,
oh yeah, totally.
Okay, because it's really important to me to be respectful. I believe that no matter what, at the end of the day, we have to still get along. And so I'm going to support this, and you're not going to support it, but we can still be decent.
I would suggest you start looking up the real numbers that you think.
Oh, I'm going to look them up, yeah.
Before you start saying that this is a problem, this is a problem. Like, I support you not liking the gun confiscation.
Okay.
That's a terrible idea.
Okay.
But what other problems do we have? What else?
Well, for me personally, the first clause of the Constitution basically says that we can't. Hey, can I ask you some questions later on?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm going to be wandering around here for a few more minutes. I'm just going to talk to him and then.
My mom and I are just walking. We'll go.
Okay.
Are you gonna?
I'll be in this area.
Yeah, I definitely.
Big blue guy.
I've got lots to say.
Hey, thank you so much. God bless you. I hope to see you again. Okay, where was I?
Other than the gun ban.
Other than the gun ban. Okay, personally, first clause of the Constitution, I'm not quoting exactly, but it basically says that the government decides what rights are reasonable and not, and then they can take them away under like situations that they deem like it's not totally bombing this one. So we don't have rights, we have privileges. That's the argument. And I want rights. I want my rights like not infringible. Free speech, freedom of association, everything else, freedom of religion, freedom of conscience, freedom to a fair trial, freedom to, like name it, all the things in the Constitution. I want that as a right. No way can it be infringed.
I would agree that's fine.
Well, we could do that.
Good rights right now in Canada.
Well, do we? I mean, look at what they did to the trucker convoy. They put people in solitary confinement. They seized their bank accounts. They didn't give them a fair trial, like right away, like a quick trial, like as their right. They suspended their rights.
That was also a really terrible situation, the way they handled it. However, I also don't really agree with blockading public roadways.
For the record, I don't agree with blocking roads either. And I supported the truckers up until I saw that, things were getting a little bit sketchy. And then I was like, definitely don't block the roads. And I don't think they blocked I think there's a few examples probably, but
I mean, they tried blocking the border.
I mean, there were different groups at different times doing different things, and it's hard to blanket statement. I think vast majority were good people, and they were doing what was peaceful, and the Supreme Court agreed. So, I mean,
I don't think they arrested everybody. They let a
No,
lot. They let that
they let a lot
protest in
go.
Ottawa go.
Yeah.
Which, my God, if I lived in downtown Ottawa at the time, I would have been some upset about those guys.
yeah, which it's a right to be upset, you know. And if you live right in front of Parliament, like that's the one place Canadians have to go and
I think
protest.
it was a lot bigger than just in front of Parliament. but-
It was bigger, yeah. But so, I mean, that to me was like, there's a moment during the trucker convoy. They were in front of Ottawa, in front of the Parliament, and there's a big crowd and the police are marching in with horses, and they trampled an Indigenous woman onto the ground, an elderly woman. She got trampled underneath. And to me, in my mind, that's when Canada lost its credibility to govern.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like symbolically,
I
if there's
mean,
one moment.
We've done so much worse to Indigenous in Alberta.
I know. And so, what makes you think that things are going to get better under the current system?
I don't think they're going to get much worse. I think they'd get worse under Alberta rules.
Well, under Alberta's Republic, we could completely renegotiate the treaties if the Indigenous people wanted, and I'm sure that it would get a better deal,
We could try.
right?
We don't have to.
Right. Well, they don't have to, but we could try. And I think, again, I don't want to put words in other people's mouth, but I think that if the deal was like, hey, we can actually get something better than what we currently have, I think reasonable Indigenous people would just jump at that.
Yeah, and how much would that cost?
Well, I think in the end, it'd probably be a partnership that was like profitable and beneficial for both sides. So that's the goal. You know, if we can't make a deal that's profitable and beneficial for both sides, then nobody would want to change the current deal. We'd stay with the current deal.
I've yet to see anybody put out any numbers that make even the remotest a bit of sense for the
Right.
Alberta separation.
Right. Okay. Well, so the Alberta Prosperity Project has published and I'm not a representative of them. It's just on their website. They've published a document that outlines in pretty specific terms all of these issues and how much they would cost. And they estimate about 20 to 40 billion a year we would be able to keep in Alberta. So, I mean, that's the number they published, and I think like it's credible people, and it seems reasonable when I look at it. Like they less the equalization, they less spending on certain programs that are federal that we wouldn't have to do anymore to the same degree, because like we pay into it and then we receive back, and then that's how a lot of our healthcare and schools are funded, right? So we would be able to hi. So I mean, it's a lot to kind of argue on the side of the road, but I just think that the numbers are there and they're persuasive, and you can look them up.
I don't think those numbers are even the remotest bit
Okay.
persuasive. I think there's so many numbers that are coming out that are complete pie in the sky,
Okay.
best case scenarios,
Okay.
and not accounting for near enough.
Well, then would you do me a solid favor, just as like a kind of a good faith to this conversation? I'm going to publish the link to the Alberta Prosperity Project's numbers. It's about 20 pages. Would you read it?
I will.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that sounds totally fair to me. Because like, read it, disagree. And I've read it, and I think I understand some of it.
I know watching the whole thing of, we can get our pension back.
Okay.
And then they say that you basically would get 80 to 90% of the money that's in there currently is due to Alberta.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's completely unfathomable, unreasonable.
Yeah, I don't think
Never
we're gonna.
happened.
They're not gonna give us that much.
Exactly. So you start out with problems like that, and it only gets worse from there.
But at the same time, if we were to take over, say, like the military bases, there's $1 billion worth of environmental contamination. That's a liability they have to clean up. So we could do like a tradesies on that. Like we'll cut a little bit of the pension that we think you owe us, and then we'll take on the environmental liabilities of the bases, and things like that are probably going to happen.
Why would they agree to that?
Because it's a good faith negotiation. That's what the Supreme Court decided in the Quebec reference case, is that if there's a successful referendum on a clear question and a clear majority, then they have to negotiate in good faith.
Okay, but why, things like the national parks, those wouldn't be Alberta's.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because, I think, there's a lot of uncertainty.
Well, think about the amount of area that those national parks cover.
Yeah, it's huge.
Exactly.
And I mean, Banff is beautiful, Jasper's beautiful, lots of parks, but it's...
Imagine an international border on Highway 1 getting into Banff.
We already have one there, right? It's like a check booth. You know, it wouldn't be hard to modernize that a little bit. And hey, look, you know, some of these things I'll admit I'm a little bit absurd on. I'm not trying to be coy too much, but I'm not the best person to answer all these questions. But
I think you need to look into the real numbers a little
Yeah,
bit closer.
yeah, okay.
But I would certainly look at Brexit.
Yeah,
And what
okay,
they
I
had
will.
for an example,
Okay.
because you have a whole country
okay,
with tidewater access, and even they're suffering because they got out of the European Union.
okay.
And
Hey,
it's probably a better example than anything else you can think of.
could you give me one more sound bite to just like convince all the people to go back to Canada? Or to stay with Canada, I mean.
Because nobody has any advantage, any reason to treat us more fairly than they are right now.
Okay. Hey, can I fist bump you? God bless you, sir. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Thanks for the conversation. Hey, you guys are back. If I say I support independence, are you going to be against it or for it?
I'm for it.
Okay. Hey,
I'm
fist
like,
bump that one.
Yeah.
I'm like mainly
my mom.
for it.
Okay. So just so you know, this is a YouTube video, right? So, well, can I ask you a few questions about it? Why do you support independence?
Well, I support a stable Alberta economy.
Okay.
I'm a senior drilling engineer.
Okay.
I've worked in the oil and gas industry for 37 years.
Okay.
Well, I did.
I used to be a roughneck.
Oh, well, I'm the guy who sat in the shack. And
I was a tool hand actually, but
Oh, okay.
at the end of my career. But I'm a roughneck.
I haven't been doing that either.
I'm gonna blur that part out just because I don't want to have any public
I-
information
no,
about
it's
you.
a contract. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I'm not gonna publish that
Yeah,
part.
no, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, why do I support it?
Yeah.
Because we're sitting on the second largest oil reserves in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is that contrary to what all the tree huggers think,
Yeah.
reality, and I'm an analytical chemist is my education,
Okay. Okay.
so I can speak with letters behind my name.
Authority. Okay.
The way they twist the story
Right.
about our environment.
Right.
I mean, obviously we leave a footprint,
Yeah.
but we're a fossil fuel planet.
We're gonna need oil for like generations. Plastic and none of that's going away. Maybe fuel gets more efficient. Maybe we get nuclear fusion someday. But like, we're gonna need oil. I think every Albertan is like, yeah.
Well, I mean, I can give you an example. I worked in Ecuador. Yo estuve
cool.
trabajando para 3 años pasados.
Estoy hablar español. ¿Quieres hablar español conmigo?
Ah, sí,
Entonces,
sí. Entonces,
¿cuántos años vives en Ecuador? Lo
¿usted?
siento. No. Soy de Canadá, Alberta.
Ah, sí, sí.
Lo siento.
Yeah.
I don't know what you said.
I was waiting for that moment. I do speak Spanish.
Excellent. Yeah, and I worked for Encana at the time.
Okay. Wow.
Back in the day, but in the jungle.
Okay.
So, I actually worked in Tepisco, which is the area where Pablo Escobar and his cousin started their drug business.
Yeah.
Because they bought their cocaine from northern Ecuador.
Okay.
So when we choppered into the rig, we flew right over cocaine factories.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I worked, for a Canadian company down there.
Yeah,
I went down for another company, but I ended up working for them. And
Yeah.
What was my point on that? I remember when I was flying down, they used to fly us business class, the company I worked for, and
Yeah.
I ended up sitting next to the HR manager,
Okay.
a female from Calgary, but she
Okay.
was with the in Canada,
Okay.
and she went on an environmental rant about the oil patch and drilling and oil, the environmental footprint and everything. And I said, well, that's fine. And she
Yeah.
said, we can live in a world without oil.
I've heard some people tell me that even on this channel.
Well,
It's like, it's insane. Like,
understanding chemistry the way I do,
Yeah.
At a university level,
Yeah.
and beyond that, with almost 30 years of knowledge combined with experience, or
Right,
wisdom.
Right.
I told her, I said, if you took away petroleum,
Yeah.
every part of this plane would disappear except for the metal in the
Yeah.
structure.
Well, we wouldn't even be able to get the
fine.
metal. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
it's a pie in the sky. So here's a middle ground that I've kind of thinking in my mind, because I'm 100% with you, but I like middle ground to bring everybody together. Look, as long as the world needs oil, they should be using oil from this country. We got the highest environmental standards, highest safety standards, highest standards when it comes to protecting the communities and indigenous partnerships. And it's like, why would Quebec or any part of Canada want to buy oil from Saudi Arabia or Russia or anywhere in Africa even? You're like, buy here.
Well, but I mean, you know, and a fist bump for what you just said. I agree 100%. But the problem is that just like everything else in this country, people don't vote.
Yeah.
People don't pay attention to what's going on around them.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, I don't know how many people you interview, but
you're like the third or fourth person in this video. I just started this channel about 2 weeks ago. Good. So I got 8 videos, I think now. Or...
Excellent. Excellent.
Talking. It's called Talking to Albertans.
Well, I'm now a psychotherapist.
Oh, fantastic!
So yeah, big switch.
Don't be analyzing me.
I am.
Oh no,
buddy. You don't want to know what I.
What are my secret motivations here?
I see dictatorship grandeur.
Oh yeah. As soon as we get independence, I'm going to crown myself the Emperor of Alberta. So watch out. We're going to have a constitution with freedoms guaranteed.
All right. You looking for anybody to help?
Second in command, maybe not. You know, it's now that's going to be a soundbite. Someone's going to use that.
Yeah. But you know, anyway, long and short of it is, you know, back in 2015 when the Liberal government took over, you know, they oh wow, they did the exact same thing that they did back in the 80s when his father was in power.
Yeah.
With their energy. You know, just absolute bureaucratic bullshit, really.
Yeah.
You know, and they destroyed our economy, and my mom will remember that. I mean, my dad was a senior drilling guy at the time, and one of the really fortunate ones to keep his job.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we separate, not only do we get the economic advantage of the selling our oil and gas.
Yeah.
And be part of, but we'd be part of a freer country.
Freer country.
And that's what people don't understand. I mean, we've got lobbyists here, and it's all done, you know, behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And we've got ceilings on malpractice. We've got ceilings on all kinds of different things that nobody's aware of.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you make that argument, right? Because I think the argument for freedom is probably the strongest argument in favor of this, and we need to talk about it more. Like, we can make our own constitution. We can make our own system of government. Like, have a conference, bring everybody who wants to come, and then just hash it out for like 3 years even, you know, slowly. And some leaders will rise up and represent different factions, and then we'll get a constitution that hopefully is like way better than what we currently have. I think we could make one like fix all the problems. Look at the U.S. Constitution. They had like how many amendments because they didn't write it good enough the first time. We could write one good the first time. What do you think of that?
Well, what I know about that,
Good idea.
when we brought our Constitution home, you know, circa 1982.
Something like that, yeah.
What was his name?
Pierre Trudeau?
No, Brian Mulroney.
Oh, yeah.
Or was it Mulroney in 82?
I don't remember.
Anyway, I just can't
It's a long time
name
ago.
drop off the top of my head.
Yeah,
but
me neither.
I can tell you this. Our legal system here, our judicial system is corrupt. They have the Charter of Rights and Freedoms of Canada, circa into the 1982 revision of our Constitution.
Yeah.
And they absolutely abuse it. They absolutely don't follow it.
Yeah.
You very rarely hear about our rights, our Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Well, the issue is we don't actually have rights in Canada. The first clause gives the government discretion to judge if they can take our rights away. So really it's just a privilege. And then the notwithstanding clause allows them to completely suspend our rights as well. So like, we Canadians have privileges. Americans have rights that cannot be infringed. Like that's the wording of it, shall not be infringed. Canadians, we don't have rights, and we think we do, but we don't. They take away like even right now, here's a good example. So there's a bill, I think it's C9 or 11 or something. They want to make it so that if you preach the Bible, okay, and then you say something that's deemed hateful by like the groups who oppose the Bible, then you can't use that as a defense that it's like freedom of religion, freedom of conscience. Like, so now you can't preach the Bible anymore because there's some verses in there that are against LGBTQ, right? Like,
right.
Like, that's what's happening right now in Canada. And we're just gonna go along with it. You know, I'm not, but I don't think you are.
No. But there again, I mean, we need people need to vote.
Yeah.
It is a democracy here, whether,
Right.
you know, I mean, you and I can, you know, we know it's not per se, but
Well-
people don't vote. I
Well,
mean,
I just want to push back politely because is it actually democracy? So here's two kind of examples. The gun confiscation is a bureaucratic process, no vote, right? No referendum. Hey, should we take away the guns? None of that. No discussion.
$2 billion waste
Yeah.
the first time.
Yeah, just like it's gone. And then so that's like that's not even democratic, that's bureaucratic. And then now what we're doing with independence, we're called treasonous and traitors. But like this is like the Supreme Court said this is constitutionally allowed. Peacefully protesting and then hoping to have a referendum on your future is a democratic right that we all Canadians have. And we're, you know, like, so they're actually, again, I don't think Canadians support democracy. I think Albertans do.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing about all of this is our government rules by brute force.
Yeah.
You know, just for example, and this is a fact. I
Yeah.
speak to this. I won't speak to things I don't understand.
Okay.
Our income tax system.
Okay.
I learned about our income tax system when I became a non-resident of Canada. And I
Okay.
became a non-resident of Canada because I wasn't working for a Canadian company, and
Right.
I was out of the country for more than half of the year.
Yeah.
Sometimes for the full year.
Non-resident for tax purposes.
Well, because why would I be taxed when I don't? I had no. I shut down my Alberta healthcare.
Yeah.
I did it properly, but I
Yeah.
went through the expatriate group in Calgary,
Yeah.
and they assisted me so I could do it legally. And the thing about it is that it's illegal under our British Anglo-Saxon law
Yeah.
that we follow here. Supposedly, it's illegal to tax a citizen of Canada. It's illegal. And the thing-
Yeah, I've heard this before, and it's like de facto we've just accepted it, and it's become like everybody just agrees that we can just be taxed like this, and we just go along with that too.
Well, the biggest thing that people need to understand, and I think that, you know, what people need to understand, if they had the awareness
Yeah.
that their income tax money that's taken from their checks,
Yeah.
that's destroyed. It's not used for social programs.
No.
It's not used for anything.
Yeah.
That money is to represent gold bullion that doesn't exist anymore. Okay, and the only reason the government is doing that is they're doing that so that we don't completely devalue our dollar.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a gold standard. Like our money is just currently inflating. We're looking down the barrel of like economic stagnation at the best, and like complete economic collapse. Like in 10 years, 15 years, Canada is on a bad path, and that's why I think Alberta can just get out right now. We could have our own currency, you know?
Well, and you know what? That's exactly right. Like, that's exactly right.
We could cut taxes. Like you need some taxes, but like, okay, the legitimate argument, roads and schools and hospitals. Okay, fine. 5% tax would probably cover all that. That's what the Alberta Prosperity Project guys are saying.
but the fact is they have billions and billions in surplus
Yeah.
just from sales tax.
Yeah,
I mean, the bottom line is
Oh, yeah.
it's just like anything.
yeah,
It's awareness.
Yeah.
Now, and I'll tell you something from a psychotherapeutic, from a neuroscience, and this is modern cutting edge neuroscience.
Okay.
Okay. Our left brain,
Yeah.
which everybody has, that's our logical side of our brain.
okay,
Our prefrontal cortex, the left
Okay.
side.
Okay.
Okay. That's where we do all our logical thinking. That's where our speech comes from. That's where how we can tell time.
okay,
Okay. Our right brain is our abstract thinking, our subconscious.
okay.
Okay. Our school system in Canada, starting from kindergarten
Oh, yeah.
all the way to if you get your master's degree
Yeah.
in undergraduate school.
Yeah.
Okay. They run that system they teach us a linear way of thinking,
Yeah.
which is all left brain. All left brain.
Yeah.
So there is no possibility for true creativity, and they don't support
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, our
Now-
school system just turns us into little worker pawns to pay our taxes. Like that's all we are.
Well, and we're not actually paying our taxes. What we're doing,
Yeah.
and how they do it, they get you to write your name backwards,
Yeah.
and then they, and this is an illegal thing that the government of Canada has done, ruling by brute force.
Yeah.
They give the TD1 form,
Yeah.
And it's mandatory. It never used to be when I was a kid, but it's
Yeah.
mandatory now that everybody fill that out.
Yeah.
Or you can't work for these companies. And the
Okay.
reason those companies won't do that
Yeah.
is because the government says if you don't have these filled out,
Then you can't work.
we're going to take you off the
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
corporate registry. So what they do is they use illegal means. They have Revenue Canada in the top left-hand corner.
Okay.
They have the entity, your name spelled backwards in the middle of the form.
Yeah.
And then down in the bottom right, they get you to sign with your British Anglo-Saxon signature, which makes you the actual citizen, and you become the guardian of the taxpayer.
Yeah. This is a lot for me to kind of take in, but I'll definitely think about some of that stuff. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the camera before we go?
Just keep doing what you're doing, you
Yeah.
know, and you have my support 100%. And you know what? There's a lot of people like me. Not everybody walks around like a zombie in this country.
No, I found a lot of supporters. This video started off with a supporter, and there's been a couple of naysayers. You're I think the next one. So I think there's a large group of people in Alberta who support this, and we're afraid to speak up. And that's why I'm wearing this flag around, walking around public, because the people who are against it have no problem swearing at me and cussing me out. The people who are for it are afraid to get sworn at and cussed out. And it's like they're just going to call us names, but you know what? I believe we're the majority. I believe we got this.
Well, you know what? The Alberta I grew up in the industry I grew up in,
Yeah.
if there was a party and there was 100 people, say at a wedding reception,
Yeah.
and some big asshole
Yeah.
walked in, some 6'8" guy. Well, me and the people like me and you,
Yeah.
we're the ones, the one or two people in that crowd of 100 people that'll walk up and say, guess what? You
Yeah.
got to leave.
Yeah.
And that's what's got to happen. We got to leave.
Well, I do agree. We got to leave. So, hey, thank you so much. Hey, God bless you. All right, take care. Yeah. Well, that's a lot to kind of take in there, guys. I'm not quite sure about that last little bit there. It kind of went, I was a bit afraid of like conspiracy theory kind of land. I love what he supported there, but I don't know. I mean, I think the government has the right to tax us because we've kind of given them the right. Like, that's how things work. If you go along with it, then they have it. So you give up a right, then you give it up. Hey, do you guys support Alberta independence?
Absolutely not.
Can I ask you why?
Yankee, go home.
I was born here. I'm a Canadian citizen just like you.
Move there.
Well, why would you call me a Yankee?
Take your friends with you. The whole world.
So, I mean, you can insult me, but you got an argument. Because, like, that just proves you got no argument. Hey, God bless you. Yeah, it's something funny. You can call me a Yankee. It's funny, actually, about that word Yankee, because correct me if I'm wrong, all my American viewers, but the Yankees were the northern people, and I think that there's something about that. I don't know, I forget how that goes, but hey, do you guys support Alberta independence?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Have a great day. There's something coming to mind, but it's a lot to kind of take in. I want to go back to what that guy was saying about the oil and gas industry. So a lot of people in Canada don't realize this. They naively think that we're just going to get off of oil. They see windmills popping up, and they see some solar panels like basically taking over farmland, and they think that magically we're just gonna somehow switch to that, all that stuff. It's a pie in the sky dream. The only thing that's going to replace oil and gas for energy would be something like cold fusion. Okay, but maybe we'll get that. We've always been 5 years away from having cold fusion. And then that still doesn't mean we're off of oil and gas, because we need to have plastics and fertilizers and chemicals for various things. And then there's still like the issue with airplanes, flying around. Cold fusion, like, yeah, you could power up a battery, but you wouldn't be able to have a battery to fly a plane. Like, maybe there's technological solutions to all of this, but don't buy into this, that you think that we're going to just somehow not need oil and gas. Alberta is sitting on a mountain. Not a mountain, I guess we're sitting on a basement. All hell for a basement, right? We should be using Alberta oil and gas. If the world needs oil and gas, they should be buying it from right here, from us. Okay? We have the highest safety standards, highest environmental standards. We have the highest standards when it comes to protecting communities that are affected by it and indigenous partnerships. There's so much to be proud of with that. And oh my God, I see people walking on the river. And that is incredibly dangerous, guys. Don't ever walk on the river. I'm gonna go back this way. Don't ever walk on the river when there's ice. I guess a responsible person would say to keep watching them in case they need help. But I know how deep it is there. I've walked in this river before. It's about up to your waist. So anyway, no, it's just why would we buy oil from countries that like don't respect the environment, that don't respect human rights? Why would we do business with countries like that unless we needed to, you know? And I get there's kind of an argument where it's like, if we do business with them, then maybe we influence them. Like, we've been thinking that with the Chinese since the 80s, that if we start doing business, then they'll be less bad. And I don't think that's helped anything. So, hey, do you support Alberta independence? Do you support Alberta independence? Yeah.
Move south.
Oh, okay. Have a good day. God bless you. That's another thing, actually, is so many people opposed to independence have just bought this argument that this is all about becoming a 51st state. And they just talk about how they hate Trump. And it's like, that is just evidence that they're just being brainwashed by the media. The media is programming that into your head. If you believe that, think for yourself, okay? If you need to lie to make your point, then you've lost the argument. Everybody in this independence movement will tell you that the people who want to support it are a small group of them, okay? And it's not what we're seriously talking about. And everybody will also tell you that it's not even possible. The Democrats would not let it happen. They would want to bring in Puerto Rico or Washington, D.C., and it would just disturb the whole thing. And they need like super majority to get another state. It's not even a thing. But this has been a fear in Canadian history since the beginning, that, oh, the Americans are going to take us over. And so many people just buy that, like as if it's a legitimate thing we should be worried about. And then it's like, why so much hate to the Americans? Hey, do you support Alberta independence?
Yes.
Yeah, you do?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a few questions?
Sure.
Awesome. So this is a YouTube channel that I'm recording for.
Great.
Can I just point, because I want to get out of the way here, or the light is going to shine on your face. I'm going to go, oh, it's in your baby. Here, I'll block the baby.
Okay.
So you support Alberta independence.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think Alberta is great, and I think the rest of Canada is kind of dragging us down.
Okay. I think you said it pretty good there. What would be an issue that like really sets it in your mind?
Well, I just think probably politically the way that our government has been treating us.
Okay.
And I think
I guess
we
I'm
have-
blocking this. Is
we
bad
have a
one.
lot of
What?
we have a lot of our own resources that we can rely on, and we don't
Okay.
have to rely on other people.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a lot of good reasons for it.
Okay. Can we walk to the shade?
Yeah.
That would be better for you. I'm so sorry because I'm
No,
like
it's okay.
trying to get a good camera angle and it's like it's hurting your eyes.
She's got stuff to say on this matter. I'm not educated
Oh.
at all. I have no idea.
Okay. So I was talking with a guy about how well, there's a lot of issues on this, but what is the issue that actually makes you like support it, or what comes to mind just off the top of your head?
Well, I think economically we would greatly benefit from being our own
Okay.
country.
Okay.
I think like just not having to half Alberta's income and send
Right.
it away, or
Right.
and being able to keep our money here.
Right.
I think we could pay ourselves better.
Oh yeah.
We could pay our workers better. We would do better with care for elderly
Yeah.
and school systems
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah, like we could have policies that reflect our values
Yeah.
and our needs,
Yeah.
right? Because like in Canada right now, they make laws that are trying to like make Quebec happy, and Ontario and BC and Alberta kind of gets left behind.
Right.
So make, like, if we're governed by ourselves, we can have laws that are like, this is best for us.
Yeah, I do think that as well, just in like not knocking down Canada. I'm like, if they want to make rules for
Yeah.
themselves and laws for themselves to benefit themselves, great.
Yeah.
But they haven't been including us in
Right.
themselves, and
Right.
so why would we include ourselves?
Right. Yeah, I feel like we've been excluded because we wanted in for so many years. There's been several movements in like the Reform Party Canada to try to like get us in, but then we get in and then nothing changes, right? Like the Constitution is not going to change ever, and the form of government will never be represented.
Yeah.
Right. And so.
Yeah, I think we would be a great power unto ourselves
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. So my channel is called Talking to Albertans.
Okay.
So I just started. I'm just a dude. I don't represent anybody. I'm just my own opinions. And what would change your mind and make you support going back to Canada? That's a hard question, but like.
Maybe a real conservative government that doesn't just promise things and fall through.
Okay. Well, they're holding the convention for the Conservative Party in Calgary, and it's like nobody showed up except for like the big wigs who are part of it. But it's like nobody's
I don't
going
know.
to
I
it.
feel like the last few years too, even with the Conservative Party being divided, I'm like,
Yeah.
I think we just maybe need to be our own
Right.
thing. And we
Right.
can. Like Quebec
Absolutely.
can't do that because they don't have the resources we have.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. Quebec could. They got lots of resources. They could be wealthy.
Right.
They just don't want to develop the resources.
Right.
Like. Well,
that in there.
okay. I'll blur out that one little word there. Actually, here's the thing though. The independence movement in Quebec is ramping up.
Okay.
And if they had an election today, the Bloc Québécois or the Parti Québécois, I always get them mixed up, they would win.
Right.
And they're like promising to have a referendum there. So like, it's kind of a race. Who's going to get there first, Alberta or Quebec?
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of want to win.
Yeah. Let's
Like,
win.
Let's beat them to it, you know?
Totally.
Okay. Hey, God bless you.
Yeah. God bless you too.
All right. Take care. Thank you so much. I hope that if you watch this video this long, you see I am genuinely trying to have open opinions, honest conversations. I do want to change people's minds, but I recognize that I'm probably not going to be able to. So I want to give everybody a voice, right? If you're for it or against it, tell me what you think, right? So, hi, do you support Alberta independence? No, can I ask you why? Okay, just cause. All right, have a great day. God bless you. Like that lady there, if she would have stopped and talked to me, then I would give her a voice. And this is so interesting, guys. The Canada that I grew up in, we were stereotypically like polite and honest and like kind and trustworthy. And it seems like it's all changed. Like the Canadians, they want us to stay. They're just grumpy and miserable, and they have nothing but vitriol to spread towards me. Hey, how's it going? Good. I was kind of worried when I saw a peace officer walking by. Maybe somebody said something. It's like even the fact that I would think that shows where we're at here. Kind of proves my point. Like. The people who walk by and they swear or they're grumpy, do you think that that's honestly going to bring me back into the fold? Like, do you think that that's how you win our hearts and minds? Doesn't it bother you at all that a good, let's just go in the low number. Let's just say a good 20 to 30% of Albertans want to leave. Doesn't that bother you? I think it's like 45 to 50%. And I think we can probably get to 60 with a good campaign and win this. But we'll see how the numbers go. But doesn't it bother you that so many of us want to leave? And like, don't you think for a second that maybe the best way to like deal with this situation is what you did to Quebec back in the 90s, right? When Quebec was like going through their referendum, the people held up flags and signs. They say, "We love you, Quebec. Please don't go. We love you, Quebec." And then they basically spent the last 25 years or whatever just giving Quebec everything they possibly could ever want. How come in Alberta we get treated exactly the opposite? How come we're the subject of so much abuse? Like, what goes through their mind that they think that lying about us, calling us treasonous, right? We're following a democratic process. This is a legal right in Canada. The Supreme Court has decided that. The Quebec reference case, man, anybody can read this. But when they call us treasonous, they're actually just advocating for violence against us. And that's what scares me. That's what honestly keeps me up at night, guys. Because I put myself out here with these videos. I kind of started it just a little bit naive, but now I've passed the point of no return. Crossed the Rubicon. And I think that's a good analogy, but it obviously goes so far because Caesar crossed the Rubicon to like defeat the Republic. So don't be quoting me on history there, but there's a point of no return. And I think that a lot of Albertans need to realize this. There will come a day, if we win this, where that means taking down the Canadian flags off of all the government buildings. And that means no more paying taxes to Ottawa and no more following the laws. We create our own laws, we become independent. That's what we're talking about here. Hey, can I ask your opinion on Alberta independence? Have a great day. And that is a bit of a gut kind of feeling when I say that, because, you know, I'll just fully admit, guys, I never thought I would be the one doing this. I never thought we'd be at this point. I love the idea of what Canada was. When I grew up here, you know, and during the trucker convoy, I was so proud. I was the one with Canadian flags on my vehicle. I didn't go to Ottawa, but I drove around with them. And at the time, it was like the people with Canadian flags were treated as traitors. That's how we were treated. And isn't it so ironic that now here we are, right? And now we're doing the same thing. Hi, how's it going? Great. They looked a little young. I didn't want to ask them. I don't want to have too many kids in these videos commenting, but yeah, it's just so ironic that now we're at this point where we were the ones with the Canadian flags, waving them, saying, hey, we want back in. We want to be treated fairly. We want to be, you know, have our rights respected. That's all we were asking during the trucker convoy. And now we're the ones waving this flag, independence. We want our rights. We've been on the side of democracy from the beginning. Remember that, all you Alberta patriots. We've been the ones on the side of democracy. When they suspended our rights, we thought we had rights. That was our mistake. We thought we had rights in Canada. No, the government can take away whatever they want to call rights at any time. That's the biggest issue for me. That guy back there, he asked me what I wanted to see from all of this. I want to see a constitution that actually guarantees rights that shall not be infringed. Our current constitution does not do that. And sorry, I'm just walking over some icy spots here. I want to make sure I don't slip and biff it. So yeah, please leave some comments, guys. And I just want to ask one more time, if you support my channel, to consider getting a membership. It's a small amount of money, but you know, pay for some gas. I'd like to go up to Grand Prairie, and I'd like to go out to like Fort Mac. It's been a long time since I've been up there. And I'd like to go down to Lethbridge, and heck, I'd like to go to Coots. I'd like to go everywhere and see what people are saying. And it takes a lot of my time to do this and a lot of my money to do this. And so I appreciate it if you're willing to do that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe. Cheers.